Picture the glittering lights of Hollywood's golden age, a world where film stars were worshipped like royalty. Yet, behind the glamour and adoration, many of these luminaries lived secret lives they dared not share with the public. Today, we'll journey through the hidden worlds of 12 iconic actors and actresses, each forced to walk the delicate line between fame and personal truth. Stay with us to discover these untold stories. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share if you find this exploration intriguing. Let's begin. 1. Rock Hudson. Rock Hudson, celebrated for his leading roles in romantic comedies like Pillow Talk and dramatic pieces such as Magnificent Obsession, epitomized the suave, tall, and handsome archetype of Hollywood's prime. Publicly, he was the embodiment of the all-American heartthrob, smiling on red carpets, charming interviewers, and enchanting moviegoers worldwide. Yet Hudson's off-screen life was a tapestry of guarded secrets and internal conflicts that cast a shadow over his megawatt stardom. From early in his career, Hollywood insiders whispered about his sexual orientation. Given the immense stigma surrounding homosexuality in mid-20th century America, revealing the truth could mean the end of a flourishing career. As a protective measure, Rock Hudson entered a marriage with Phyllis Gates, which lasted for 3 years. Many suspected it was orchestrated by studio executives to squash the unrelenting rumors. Publicly, the couple appeared happy, attending film premieres, posing for photographs, and fulfilling expectations of a glamorous Hollywood lifestyle. Privately, however, Hudson battled profound emotional strain, trapped between a carefully crafted public persona and his true identity. Even after his divorce, Hudson maintained relationships that had to remain far from the limelight. One of the more talked about connections was with Mark Christian, although details about their time together were muffled by both secrecy and legal complexities. The constant pressure to hide his sexuality weighed heavily on Hudson, often driving him into deep bouts of stress and loneliness. Despite his genuine friendships with several actresses, including Marilyn Maxwell, whom he reportedly considered marrying, he was never free from the anxiety that one misstep could shatter his image. In 1985, Rock Hudson's private struggles became heartbreakingly public when he was diagnosed with AIDS. Though he initially kept his battle secret, the devastating truth emerged when he collapsed in Paris and sought treatment. His revelation stunned fans across the globe and transformed him into one of the first major celebrities to put a face on the AIDS crisis. Hudson's final days were fraught with physical suffering, but in sharing his diagnosis, he arguably propelled mainstream awareness and empathy for those living with HIV/AIDS. 2. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford loomed large over Hollywood with an almost mythical presence. Billed as one of the greatest actresses in American cinema, she delivered powerhouse performances in films like Mildred Pierce, which earned her an Academy Award, and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, cementing her reputation for intensity and range. While Crawford's public persona radiated fierce ambition and glamour, her personal life was marked by constant reinvention, high-stakes romances, and hushed secrets. Crawford was married 4 times, a fact that already placed her under considerable media scrutiny. 3 of her husbands were rumored to be gay, and though the actress never publicly addressed these speculations, the pattern of such relationships fueled persistent talk. In addition to her multiple marriages, Crawford adopted 5 children, striving to balance maternal responsibilities with her ever-ascending career in an industry notorious for devouring personal time. But perhaps the most whispered-about element of Crawford's life was her alleged appetite for relationships that crossed traditional boundaries. Industry chatter claimed she was equally enamored of men and women. Her widely reported affair with Gable, one of Hollywood's most revered leading men, was the subject of tabloids for years. Onlookers couldn't resist the idea of two dynamic stars entwined in a turbulent romance. Meanwhile, rumors of her intimate encounters with other actresses circulated just as fervently, although confirmations were elusive given the oppressive moral climate of the era. Crawford's biographer, David Brett, dove deep into these undercurrents in Joan Crawford, Hollywood Martyr, painting a portrait of a star who was both deeply driven and profoundly lonely. Born into poverty, she clawed her way into Hollywood's elite through sheer force of will and a flair for self-promotion. Yet, behind the carefully curated facade of elegance, Crawford reportedly navigated emotional upheavals, ever-mounting debts, and a longing for connection that she struggled to satisfy. 3. Cary Grant dapper, witty, and effortlessly charming. Cary Grant was the very definition of sophistication on screen. From screwball comedies like Bringing Up Baby to the suspenseful romance of Notorious, Grant's career spanned decades, captivating audiences with his impeccable comedic timing and suave demeanor. Yet behind the tuxedos and polished grin lay a personal life that stirred just as much fascination and intrigue among those who knew him well. Grant's romantic history was widely publicized. He was married 5 times, a track record that by itself triggered endless headlines. Most famously, his third marriage to actress Diane Cannon produced a daughter, but the union was far from uncomplicated. In parallel with his high-profile relationships, Grant found himself the subject of persistent chatter regarding his sexuality. One of the most enduring rumors centered around his deep connection with fellow actor Randolph Scott. The two had met on the set of Hot Saturday in 1932, and their ensuing bond led to them sharing a luxurious Los Angeles mansion for nearly 12 years. Speculation soared. Were they merely best friends, or was there something more intimate unfolding behind closed doors? Photographs of Grant and Scott lounging poolside, playfully cooking in the kitchen, or posing in matching outfits fueled the public's curiosity. Hollywood's moral codes, combined with the harsh realities of an intolerant era, meant that Cary Grant couldn't openly address these rumors without risking his lucrative career. Instead, he parried questions with witty remarks and maintained a carefully choreographed public image as a dashing bachelor, or later, a devoted husband whenever he was married. What complicated matters further was Grant's penchant for privacy. He rarely gave interviews that delved beyond superficial banter, preferring to let his on-screen persona speak for him. This reluctance to share details of his personal life only sparked more assumptions. Colleagues described him as amiable yet enigmatic, someone who excelled at slipping into whatever social role was expected of him, be it a leading man or a loyal friend. 4. Barbara Stanwyck. Barbara Stanwyck was a powerhouse of classic cinema, a performer whose versatility and grit propelled her through nearly 85 films over a career spanning 6 decades. Whether portraying a ruthless femme fatale in Double Indemnity or a down-on-her-luck woman in Stella Dallas, Stanwyck had a knack for immersing herself in roles that revealed her formidable emotional range. Off-screen, however, she guarded a trove of personal complexities and unspoken truths that contrasted sharply with her bold on-screen image. Born Ruby Stevens in Brooklyn, Stanwyck faced adversity from a young age. Her father abandoned the family, and her mother died in an accident shortly after, leaving her orphaned and fending for herself in a tough urban environment. Through determination and raw talent, she ascended to Broadway and then Hollywood, adopting the stage name Barbara Stanwyck. Along the way, she weathered heartbreaks, including a teenage abortion, that left her unable to have children. This event shaped her personal choices, leading her and her first husband, Frank Fay, to adopt a baby boy named Anthony Dion. Beyond these early life challenges, Stanwyck's private circle often whispered about her sexuality. In a time where homosexuality was widely ostracized, many believed Stanwyck was drawn to relationships that defied conventional norms. Some pointed to her close friendships with other women in the industry, while gossip columns alluded to rumors of discreet affairs. Clifton Webb, a well-known actor, famously deemed her his favorite Hollywood lesbian, a remark that circulated in hush-hush fashion among insiders. Axel Madsen, her biographer, went so far as to call her the most famous closeted lesbian in Hollywood, though Stanwyck herself never made any public acknowledgments. Stanwyck's protective approach to her personal life was in part a product of the era. Studios wielded enormous power, controlling every aspect of a star's presentation, from orchestrated marriages to stern warnings against any behavior that could spark scandal. Women in particular faced heightened scrutiny if they deviated from the picture-perfect image of heterosexual family life. Stanwyck, conscious of these pressures, kept her genuine feelings behind a tightly woven curtain of privacy, preferring to devote her energy to her craft. Despite any turmoil beneath the surface, Barbara Stanwyck's achievements in Hollywood were monumental. Her 4 Academy Award nominations and 1 honorary Oscar speak to her enduring impact. She also championed strong female roles, paving the way for actresses who sought to break stereotypes. In her later years, she made a graceful transition to television, earning further acclaim in series like The Big Valley and The Colbys. 5. Clark Gable, dubbed the King of Hollywood. Clark Gable reigned supreme during the 1930s and 1940s, enchanting moviegoers with his rugged charisma and signature mischievous grin. His iconic roles in Gone with the Wind and It Happened one night propelled him to legendary status, securing an Oscar and cementing his place among Tinseltown's elite. Yet behind the confident swagger and well-trimmed mustache lay a kaleidoscope of personal complexities that rarely saw the light of day. Gable married 5 times, with each union capturing headlines due to his larger-than-life persona. He was lauded as a ladies' man, forever accompanied by a rotating cast of glamorous actresses. But swirling beneath these conventional narratives were persistent rumors that Gable had also pursued relationships with men. According to some accounts, Gable cultivated such connections for both personal satisfaction and strategic career gain, an unorthodox approach for an era so tightly policed by moral codes. It's crucial to remember that Hollywood studios during Gable's heyday wielded near-absolute authority over a star's image. They brokered marriages, staged publicity stunts, and suppressed stories that threatened to tarnish box office appeal. In Gable's case, the rumor mill hinted that if he had engaged with men, it was carefully choreographed to remain invisible to mainstream audiences. True or not, the speculation endured, fed by a swirl of gossip rags and hush-hush chatter among insiders. Despite whispers of undisclosed liaisons, Gable's public life was thoroughly romantic. He famously wooed and wed Carole Lombard, whose tragic death in a plane crash left him grief-stricken. That heartbreak revealed a more vulnerable dimension to the otherwise confident star, endearing him even further to fans who witnessed his raw pain. Still, Gable rarely granted interviews delving into his private life, preferring to keep the public's focus on his roles and box office hits. In the later stages of his career, Gable struggled to recapture the unbridled success he'd enjoyed in the preceding decades. A changing Hollywood landscape, coupled with personal weariness, made it difficult for the veteran actor to find fresh footing. Nonetheless, he persevered, starring in notable films until his death in 1960. To this day, his portrayal of Rhett Butler remains one of cinema's most unforgettable performances, and his off-screen legacy, a mix of dashing romances, rumored secrets, and unyielding star power, continues to captivate old Hollywood aficionados. 6. Montgomery Clift. Montgomery Clift, renowned for his delicate, boyish features and intense, methodical performances, was among Hollywood's most compelling actors of the 1950s. He delivered memorable roles in A Place in the Sun, From Here to Eternity, and Red River, each showcasing a raw emotional depth that set him apart from more traditional leading men. Known for living not in Los Angeles but in New York, Clift effectively sidestepped much of the tabloid culture that pervaded Hollywood. Yet the rumors surrounding his private life proved no less persistent. Unlike many contemporaries who paraded their personal affairs for publicity, Clift valued a profound sense of privacy. This was especially pertinent given the whispers that he was bisexual, a taboo subject in an era when even mild displays of queerness could derail a career. Insiders hinted at Clift's relationships with men, including moments of intense camaraderie with close friends. At the same time, his rumored romance with Elizabeth Taylor, a friendship so tight they were considered something akin to soulmates, only added to the mystique surrounding his life off-set. Choosing to remain in New York granted Clift an environment where he could somewhat shield himself from incessant paparazzi and prying studio executives. His Manhattan apartment became a sanctuary, yet the freedom also bred isolation, as he frequently felt disconnected from the Hollywood system that shaped his stardom. This isolation was compounded by the emotional toll of concealing parts of his identity. Friends noted Clift's bouts of depression and reliance on alcohol or painkillers, especially after a near-fatal car accident in 1956, left him physically scarred and psychologically shaken. 7. Greta Garbo. Renowned for her enigmatic aura and unforgettable portrayals in silent and early sound films, Greta Garbo remains an icon of cinematic mystique. Hailing from Sweden, Garbo made a swift ascent in Hollywood, with works like Flesh and the Devil and Camille mesmerizing audiences through her silent-era expressiveness and haunting screen presence. While Garbo Talks became a marketing triumph, with her transition to talking pictures, what truly enthralled fans was her magnetic blend of aloofness and vulnerability. Garbo famously retired from acting at the age of 36, an abrupt decision that stunned both fans and studios. At the peak of her fame, she vanished from the public eye, choosing a life of near-total seclusion in New York City. This retreat only magnified her mystique, leaving admirers to puzzle over her reasons for walking away. Some chalked it up to a desire for artistic freedom, others to a yearning for privacy. Yet speculation also arose regarding her deeply guarded personal life, which, according to insiders, involved relationships with both men and women. One of her most publicized near romances was with actor John Gilbert, whom she nearly married before changing her mind. Yet the more intriguing rumors centered on Garbo's connections with fellow actresses, artists, and writers, hinting at a broader spectrum of romantic and creative entanglements. Hollywood gossip columns whispered that she was drawn to kindred spirits, forging intense bonds that weren't always platonic. These rumors flew in the face of industry norms, where same-sex relationships were considered scandalous and potentially career-ending. The same secrecy that fueled Garbo's stardom also guarded her personal affairs. She famously disliked interviews, rarely signed autographs, and avoided movie premieres. For Garbo, self-preservation meant distance from the glare of reporters and the prying eyes of fans. Instead, she was seen strolling Central Park incognito or traveling overseas under assumed names. Such habits only added fuel to the public's imagination, as the press tried, and generally failed, to glean details about her private escapades. Garbo never married, nor did she have children. She spent her latter decades in quiet solitude, once remarking that she wanted to be left alone, an oft-quoted statement that became emblematic of her persona. Despite the swirl of rumors about her sexuality and personal relationships, she never publicly discussed her loves or confirmed any specifics. This deliberate silence allowed her legend to grow all the more, elevating her to a near mythical status. 8. Spencer Tracy, Spencer Tracy. Revered as one of the finest naturalistic actors in Hollywood history, built a career spanning 4 decades, and garnered 9 Academy Award nominations, taking home the coveted statuette twice. With roles in classics like Captain's Courageous, Boys Town, and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, Tracy exuded a warm, understated gravitas that made him a favorite among critics and audiences alike. Yet beneath this respectable exterior, he navigated personal complexities that often clashed with his public image. Tracy's sole marriage to Louise Treadwell produced 2 children and endured until his death, a testament to his outward dedication to familial duty. However, Hollywood was abuzz with rumors that his romantic entanglements went far beyond his marriage vows. Chief among these was his enduring on- and off-screen relationship with Katharine Hepburn, a partnership so celebrated that it became part of cinematic legend. For nearly 3 decades, they starred in films together and forged a bond that transcended professional courtesy. While the public perceived them as an iconic duo, details of their private intimacy remained shrouded in official silence. But that was hardly the full story. Whispers also circulated that Tracy had engaged in affairs with Ingrid Bergman, Hedy Lamarr, and other actresses, underscoring his reputation as a devoted yet complex lover. Moreover, more daring conjectures suggested that Spencer Tracy might have explored relationships with men as well. In the closeted climate of mid-century Hollywood, such rumors were rarely confirmed, but the speculation was persistent enough to leave traces in the diaries of directors, gossip columns, and the recollections of peers. One notable mention is that he periodically stayed at the home of director George Cukor, known for hosting gatherings of gay artists under a veil of discretion. Tracy himself never directly confronted these rumors. Like many stars of his generation, he allowed studio publicity teams to manage his image, rarely granting interviews that delved into personal matters. Yet colleagues described him as a figure of contradictions, deeply spiritual, battling guilt and inner turmoil, yet magnetic in his ability to captivate both men and women who crossed his path. His relationship with Hepburn remains a defining aspect of his legacy. 2 giants of cinema sharing an unbreakable chemistry that played out in film after film. The fact that he remained married to another woman while publicly paired with Hepburn fueled endless speculation about how the dynamic actually worked behind closed doors. Some insiders claimed that all parties had reached a tacit agreement to preserve appearances. Even as Spencer Tracy's life concluded in 1967, the layers of his relationships and personal struggles were never fully unraveled. His artistry, however, remains indisputable. To watch his performances is to witness an actor who could articulate immense depth with minimal flourishes, an authenticity that many have tried to emulate. In the end, Spencer Tracy's story is a reminder that the real lives of Hollywood legends can be every bit as engrossing as the characters they portray, woven with strands of devotion, secrecy, and a longing for acceptance. Katharine Hepburn was a force of nature, fearlessly outspoken, defiantly independent, and endowed with a presence that electrified the screen. In classics like The Philadelphia Story, Bringing Up Baby, and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Over a 60-year career, she earned 4 Academy Awards, the most for any performer in history. Beloved for her intelligence and wit, Hepburn also charted an unconventional path in her personal life, defying many of the era's expectations for women. Born into a progressive family, Hepburn was encouraged to be self-reliant and question societal norms from a young age. This upbringing influenced her approach to romance and marriage. She married only once, to businessman Ludlow Ogden Smith, but found the institution ill-suited to her fiercely independent spirit. By her own admission, she had no inclination toward motherhood, claiming she was too selfish for that role. While this stance sparked scandalized headlines in more traditional circles, it also inspired admiration from forward-thinking audiences. Yet it was her long-standing affair with Spencer Tracy that truly captured the public imagination. Their 27-year relationship was a curious blend of public collaboration and private discretion. He remained married to Louise Treadwell, and Hepburn outwardly respected that fact, even as their bond was evident to colleagues on film sets. With Tracy's Catholic faith dissuading him from divorce, they settled for a quiet arrangement that endured until his death. Amid these complexities, rumors persisted that Hepburn might have been a lesbian or bisexual. These claims were bolstered by anecdotes from her confidants and some Hollywood insiders who noted her masculine fashion choices. Trousers were a staple, long before it was acceptable for women, and her often private but intense friendships with other women. Activist Larry Kramer famously asserted that both Tracy and Hepburn were gay, and that their much-celebrated relationship was more of a studio-devised cover. While concrete evidence is scant, the whispers highlight the rigid constraints stars faced when it came to publicly embracing any identity outside the heteronormative norm. Hepburn never bothered to refute such talk directly, preferring to remain aloof from tabloid chatter. She was, after all, more interested in shaping her own narrative, one of creative autonomy and personal freedom. Her disregard for Hollywood's unspoken rules extended to her professional choices as well. She demanded creative control, selected her own scripts, and formed alliances with directors who shared her vision. By the time the American Film Institute crowned her the greatest actress in Hollywood history in 1999, Katharine Hepburn had already inspired generations to question societal dictates. Her legacy is both cinematic and cultural. She expanded the boundaries of what it meant to be a Hollywood star, championing authenticity, wit, and independence above all else. Whether or not she conformed to conventional definitions of romance or sexuality, Hepburn remains a symbol of self-determination, a woman unafraid to chart her own course, no matter the headlines. 10. Marilyn Monroe. With her platinum blonde hair, seductive smile, and breathy voice, Marilyn Monroe remains one of Hollywood's most enduring sex symbols. Films like Some Like It Hot and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes showcased her comedic timing and on-screen allure, securing her a place among the era's top box office draws. Off-screen, Monroe's life was a whirlwind of fame, heartbreak, and whispered secrets that have kept the world fascinated long after her tragic death. Born Norma Jean Mortensen, she spent much of her childhood in foster care and an orphanage, experiences that contributed to her persistent insecurities. Once in Hollywood, she faced intense pressure to maintain an image of the bubbly, sensual starlet. Studio heads manipulated her public persona, orchestrating everything from her hair color to her flirtatious public appearances. Underneath the glossy facade, however, Monroe struggled with anxiety, depression, and a gnawing sense of isolation. Married 3 times, to James Dougherty, Joe DiMaggio, and Arthur Miller, Monroe also found herself linked to powerful men, notably President John F. Kennedy and his brother Robert. Still, rumors circulated that her interests weren't limited to men alone. Gossip columns whispered that she had dalliances with actresses such as Joan Crawford and Marlene Dietrich, fueling speculation about her bisexuality. At a time when same-sex relationships were stigmatized, such whispers were both titillating for the public and dangerous for her brand. Monroe's personal writings, later published, revealed a woman plagued by loneliness and self-doubt. She fought valiantly to be taken seriously as an actress, even studying under the influential Lee Strasberg at the Actors Studio in New York. Despite this dedication, many producers saw her purely as a sex symbol, an object to be marketed rather than an artist to be nurtured. This tug-of-war between her ambition for recognition and the industry's reductive viewpoint exacerbated her emotional turmoil. By 1962, Monroe's psychological fragility was evident. Months before her death, she struggled with substance abuse. Barbiturates and alcohol had become a coping mechanism for her relentless anxiety. On August 5th of that year, she was found dead in her home, an apparent overdose that ended her life at just 36 years old. Conspiracy theories flourished, linking her demise to political scandals or Hollywood cover-ups, but none were definitively proven. Marilyn Monroe's legacy endures as a potent mix of glamour, vulnerability, and tragedy. She embodied the dreamlike splendor that Hollywood promised while personifying its darker realities: exploitation, unrelenting scrutiny, and mental health struggles. In the decades since her death, she's been reappraised not just as an icon of beauty, but as a complex individual who longed for respect and acceptance on her own terms. Her story resonates with modern audiences, reminding us that the glitter of stardom can sometimes cloak deep personal anguish. 11. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando was a titan of cinematic craft, revolutionizing acting with his smoldering presence in A Streetcar, named Desire and On the Waterfront, the latter earning him an Academy Award. Later roles such as Vito Corleone in The Godfather cemented his status as an all-time great. Renowned for his method approach, Brando brought an emotional authenticity to the screen that resonated across generations. Yet the actor's personal life was a swirl of complexities, multiple marriages, unconventional relationships, and candid remarks about his own sexuality that broke new ground in Hollywood. Brando's private affairs were the stuff of legend. Married 3 times, he fathered numerous children, and his romances with famous beauties like Rita Moreno were widely publicized. Still, there were always deeper layers. He was rumored to have engaged in relationships with various men, including James Dean, whose own tortured persona mirrored Brando's raw intensity. In his biography, Brando Unzipped, author Darwin Porter asserted that the actor had also been involved with Cary Grant, Montgomery Clift, and the Shakespearean actor Sir John Gielgud. Brando himself added fuel to the speculation. In a 1976 interview with a French journalist, he remarked, like a large number of men, "I too have had homosexual experiences, and I am not ashamed of it." This was an astounding admission in an era when even a hint of homosexuality could jeopardize a career. Brando's willingness to speak openly about same-sex encounters stood in stark contrast to the guarded approach of many contemporaries. Instead of evading the rumors, he confronted them, demonstrating a degree of personal freedom that was nearly unthinkable in mid-20th century Hollywood. Of course, he remained somewhat elusive, never offering detailed disclosures, but the mere acknowledgement of fluid sexuality was seismic in an industry adept at papering over any scandal. Brando's relationships with men weren't his only controversies. He often clashed with film studios, refusing to abide by the star system's rigid expectations. Famously, he boycotted the 1973 Academy Awards, sending an indigenous activist in his place to protest Hollywood's portrayal of Native Americans. By pushing back against these norms, Brando set an example for actors who yearned to exert control over their careers and personal narratives. Despite his unapologetic iconoclasm, Brando's artistry never faltered. His roles continued to captivate, whether as the menacing Colonel Kurtz in Apocalypse Now or as the paternal Jor-El in Superman. Even in later years, when his physical appearance and health fluctuated, he wielded a magnetism that few could match. Marlon Brando's dual identity as both cinematic legend and provocateur endures to this day, reminding us that genuine artistry and personal authenticity can walk hand in hand, even in a town that often demands conformity at any cost. 12. James Dean. James Dean was Hollywood's epitome of youthful angst and rebellion, a striking talent whose life and career flamed brightly before extinguishing far too soon. Best known for Rebel Without a Cause, East of Eden, and Giant, Dean exuded a moody magnetism that resonated with a generation seeking to break free from the constraints of 1950s America. His death at just 24 in a car crash immortalized him as a cultural icon, but also left behind a swirl of rumors about his private life that have fascinated fans for decades. At the core of these rumors is the question of Dean's sexuality. While he was involved in high-profile dalliances with women, including actresses such as Pier Angeli, many insiders insisted that Dean was equally drawn to men. The press speculated about possible affairs with contemporaries like Marlon Brando, fueling a narrative of intense yet fraught connections between two of Hollywood's most enigmatic stars. Composer Alec Wilder once mused that Dean was head over heels for Brando, but doubted the feeling was mutual. Another close associate, Jonathan Gilmour, claimed to have had an intimate relationship with Dean, and later wrote about it in The Real James Dean. Controversy surrounded Dean's statements as well. To avoid being drafted into the military at a time when homosexuality was officially classified as a mental disorder, he reportedly declared himself gay, only to recant that claim later. This back and forth reinforced the notion that Dean viewed his own sexuality as fluid, or at least as a tool he could deploy to shape public perception. Others interpreted it as strategic PR, feeding the bad boy mystique that swirled around him. Dean's personal complexity mirrored the intense vulnerability and rebellion that marked his cinematic performances. He challenged the stiff acting norms of the era, instead opting for a raw, method-inflected style that bared the emotional struggles of his characters. This approach won him critical acclaim even as it alarmed more traditional segments of the film industry. Younger viewers, however, found in Dean a spokesperson for their own restlessness, gravitating to his refusal to conform. His untimely death in 1955 cut short a career that promised limitless potential. That abrupt end only magnified his legend, making him an enduring emblem of youthful defiance, thwarted ambition, and unsettled identity. Over half a century later, fans still dissect each role, interview snippet, and rumor, hoping to glean insights into the man behind the iconic red jacket in Rebel Without a Cause. Ultimately, James Dean remains more than just a tragic figure. He stands as a testament to the electric force of authenticity, even when molded by Hollywood's relentless glare. And there you have it, 12 unforgettable figures who forged bright careers while grappling with hidden identities and untold stories. Their struggles illuminate an era when Hollywood's glamour cloaked profound personal costs. Which revelation resonated most with you? Let us know in the comments. And before you go, remember to like, subscribe, and share this video with friends who appreciate the deeper layers behind classic cinema. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more explorations of Hollywood's hidden histories.